Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is something completely different. So right now, we're in the eve, I should say, of Nioh's release. And right now on YouTube there is a lot of videos that are telling you how to play the game, how to avoid death, how to survive, things you need to know before you buy. And these various gaming media areas have got all this information that they're pumping full of all these prospective players, and I thought I'd grab a whole bunch of these videos and we could sit down and go through them and see if any of them are worth their salt. And kind of like a who watches the Watchmen kind of situation. But I don't know if I'm even able to do this because copyrights and things on YouTube are kind of weird. Some content producers are kind of sensitive over things, so you might never even see this and this might never exist. But we're going to go through a bunch that I just grabbed and we're going to sit through and see if the tips are something that I think would be worthwhile knowing and going into Nioh with. But bear in mind, folks, I haven't played this game. I don't know anything about the full game. I played the alpha, I played the beta, played the final beta, I played all those, so I've got a decent idea of how to play, but for all I know, the game could be vastly different. But let's sit back, let's enjoy these well put together videos, and let's see what it's all about, shall we? So here's Eurogamer.
Hello, Johnny from Eurogamer here with some brand new gameplay from Nioh. I got hands on with a formerly unseen level called Defiled Holy Mountain last week and found it to be a very instructive experience, by which I mean I died a lot.
Oh, we recognise that fella from the Last Chance trial.
Despite the high body count, however, I managed to pick up a few things. 7 in fact, so without any further ado, here are 7 things I learned playing Nioh. Number 1. Nioh is tricky.
Oh,
There's
dude.
no way of getting
Really?
around this one, so we may as well get it out the way nice and early. If you played the demo released on PlayStation Network last year, you'll be well aware by now, but Nioh is pretty tricky.
No shit. The sky is blue.
Not necessarily hard, because while a lot of the enemies are truly punishing, more on those in just a second, it's possible to make progress in Nioh simply by being methodical and level-headed. In other words, if you pay attention, play conservatively and don't overreach, you'll mostly be okay. Now, Nioh has already been...
Can you say that about every game?
So I'll try and keep those comparisons to a minimum. Safe to say that it's in their challenging nature that the two are most alike.
This dude's not Kai pulsing, you notice that?
More exacting than it is hard. Even if you're
Low stance.
you've faced countless times before, you need to pay attention at all times in Nioh, or you're going to wind up dead.
Does this dude lock on? Ever?
Number 2, Japanese folklore is pretty creepy. You're
What?
going to encounter a lot
How
of
is this a
different
fucking
enemies in
tip?
Nioh, from human foot soldiers to creepy crawly things to bats with an uncanny sense of timing.
Yeah, the bats are pretty damn vicious.
Bastards. Anyway, some of the enemies in Nioh are a bit special. You can tell when one of these is coming up, as it'll be announced by a morass of swirling black mist.
That's a nice bit of wordplay.
These
Oh,
enemies
we
are
know that
special,
enemy.
Not just because they're really challenging,
Wow.
but because they've been pulled straight from Japanese
That's half his
folklore.
life.
As Team Ninja head Mr. Hayashi explained in a presentation, these enemies are yokai, legendary creatures from Japanese folklore. This
Yep.
one, for instance, is the Karasu Tengu. a
And he's not
vaguely
that bad.
humanoid raven that's an expert in martial arts. That's the folklore explanation anyway. In Nioh, they're basically big, vicious enemies that are a nightmare to kill.
No, you just get behind their combo, you dodge
I'm gonna
once
come out
past
and
them,
admit it at
and
this
you can
point.
hit them from the
Karasu
back.
Tengu bested me so many times, I gave up on trying to fight it at all.
Yeah,
Instead,
stay close,
cheesing my way past
dodge
it with
to
a
his
bit of
right
tactical
shoulder, dodge to
falling,
your
which
left,
leads
get
me
behind
neatly
him,
onto my next
you'll be
point.
fine.
Number 3, there's almost always another way. Structurally, Nioh sees you advance through a number of connected areas, saving your progress at shrines along the way to ensure
Is
you
this
don't have to
Eurogamer's way of
slog through
saying
the entire
there are
level
shortcuts?
every time you die and respawn. That's not to say, however,
Hey,
that
he's in
it's a
mid-stance.
purely linear game. Generally speaking, each little segment of Nioh has a few different paths you can take.
Does it
in
trigger
order to
you guys when
advance.
you see them
Some
with
of
the
these are
unused
relatively
scrolls?
easy, cutting
It
out
makes me wonder if the
pockets of
scrolls are
enemies,
really
even letting you
expensive
get
for the
top
skills, or
on
if they
the
don't
yokai.
realise you can use them.
Others are slightly trickier, and some, of course, are fully nightmarish. As a result, Nioh is a really fun game to explore, testing different routes in each area to find the path that's right for you. For example, Nioh has a really big
Interesting, he's
emphasis
broken
on
one of his
looting,
weapons.
So if you want to reap the rewards of taking everything on,
think.
you can. If you want to avoid head-on confrontation as much as possible, however, that's also an option. Number 4, stances are important.
Yeah,
this
and
is a
you've
pretty
used
good
none
time
of
to talk
them.
about combat, actually, because there's a hell of a lot of it in
Oh, you
Nioh.
kai-pulsed!
Surviving each
Good
fight
lad.
is all about tailoring your approach, and to help you along, there are 3 different stances you can adopt.
Have you noticed
The high
how
stance
everybody's
is all about
using low
attacking
stance
power,
because of how fast
emphasizing
it
your
is?
attacks and helping you batter down your enemy's defenses before
That was good.
usually dispatching them. The middle stance is more defensive, which is useful when you're expecting a bit of back and forth with your adversaries. When dodging is more important than parrying, however, there's the low stance. This stance is all about agility. It reduces the amount of stamina dodging uses up, which should give you more puff to counter-attack with. This is the stance I fell back on most regularly
It's also
when
low
facing the
damage.
yokai, who are so powerful that blocking their attacks is rarely worthwhile. Getting out of the way and then getting a few digs in at the right opportunity was far more effective.
Oh wow, do you see the elemental damage he's doing because of his colour?
Speaking of which,
Wind
number 5,
damage.
stances are important, but timing is everything. As
Come
you
on,
might
dude.
expect, this being a Team Ninja title,
Timing is
reading
important
your
in
opponent
almost every
Nioh
game.
and knowing when to attack is extremely important, but so is being able to attack in the first place. Your stamina bar is deceptively
Wow.
easy to deplete. Exhaust it entirely and you'll be left unable to move and vulnerable
See, look
to
at him, he's
attack
behind.
for a
Oh,
few seconds.
now he's in trouble.
To help stop this happening, however, there's a mechanic called key flow. Shortly after a series of attacks, you'll see some blue particles gather around
was good.
your waist. Hold R1 at the
Look
right
at him.
moment, and
Go
this
on.
expended
Perfect
stamina
time.
will be
Stun him.
recovered, allowing you to carry
There you
on
go.
the fight
There
without
you go.
temporarily incapacitating yourself. This mechanic is all important in dictating the flow of combat. Ignore it and you're really going to struggle. Master it, however, and your chances of survival will shoot up. Although, that said, you
That's a
don't
good tip.
necessarily have to beat everything in a fair fight. Number 6, sneaking is good. While more often than not your fighting will be done with melee weapons like swords, spears and polearms, Nioh also gives you access to a number of
You can
ranged
see him
weapons.
getting a little bit
While
more
they're not as
comfortable, but I don't think he's
satisfying
actually
for real,
kai-pulsing.
they
I think
nonetheless
he's getting
shouldn't be
kai-pulses from the
ignored, as Nioh
dodge
is
because the
pretty
low stance lets you
generous
do
with its
that at the
headshot
beginning.
damage. As a result, sneaking up on an enemy and putting an arrow in the back of their skull is likely to take them out in one fell swoop. To be
Yeah, that's
honest,
a good tip.
sneaking up on anything in Nioh and giving it a good decking is a pretty good strategy. So it's
I don't
worth
think he
treading
has the
softly
move
as
to
often
execute
as
them
you
from
can
behind.
manage it. And
You do
finally,
have to
number
buy it,
7,
though.
the soundtrack is amazing.
These aren't
Hopefully
tips.
by now you've got a pretty good sense of what Nioh's gameplay can offer.
The soundtrack is pretty good, but this is a video, guys, that's called 7 Tips to Get You Started.
It's wistful and contemplative.
Half of these
and it provides
tips
a
have been
surprising
standard
variety of
observations
proceedings as you
and
run around
subjective
habits of
tastes.
horrible monsters.
You know,
There were
timing's
several points
important.
during my
No
time with
shit.
Nioh,
Stances are
generally speaking,
important.
just after I
No
died,
shit.
in which I stopped
The
to
music
just
is good.
listen to the music
No
for a bit.
shit. Like, did you learn anything? Did you get anything?
It's
Some of it
honestly
was okay.
beautiful, and after games like Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3, it's pretty refreshing not
But these
to
are
have
not
the
tips.
soundtrack be an all-out assault
I'm being
on the
pedantic,
senses.
but they're
And
not.
there you have it, 7 things I learned playing Nioh.
See, there
If
you
there are
go.
any burning insights you'd like to share, feel free to do so in the comments below.
There is the
Similarly,
distinction.
If you have any questions, do let me know, and I'll do my very best to answer them. Hopefully you found this video
Guy's a good speaker, you know? Can't take that away from him. I did enjoy the video, but the problem with it is, as he said, here are 7 things I learned while playing the game, but that's not what they called it on YouTube. Because, of course, titles need to be sexy and baited for people to watch. So instead of putting 7 things I learned, which if he'd put that, I would be fine. I'm not blaming the guy, because of course you don't know who uploaded this, you don't know who's in charge of that, he just made the video. But it was 7 tips to get you started. And that's not what that video was. So it's a fundamental failure, in my opinion, because it's a lie. But the video was fine, liked it. Let's move on to the next one. Okay folks, so the next one is from Gameranks, and it is 10 things you need to know. So once again, watch for the wordplay here, watch for what they point out, and see if it reflects what you thought the video was going to be. Because Gameranks, from my experience, seem like just cool guys that make information about games before they come out and do some interesting reviews. I don't know too much about them because I don't watch them, but I had an interaction on Twitter with one of their reviewers, and he seemed like a stand-up dude, so we'll see how this one goes when it comes to will we learn anything as we continue to watch The Watchers.
With the release of Nioh right around the corner, there's some things you should probably know before jumping in that might give you a bit of a leg up, and also just give you an idea of how some of the cool mechanics
There you go.
in the game actually.
Slow zoom outwards
I'm
from
Andy,
still
the
images.
guy in Game Ranks. We're here to talk about 10 things you need
That's
to
pretty
know
nice,
about
that.
Nioh.
Motion graphics, they've cut it out and then they're rotating it with the
Nioh
zoom.
offers a few different ways to play the game, and it really helps to
So this might not be a video, guys. Sorry about this. I thought it was.
Regular PlayStation 4 has 3 different modes, and then the PlayStation 4 Pro has 4 different ones. On PS4, there's movie mode, which focuses on higher
You see, this is
quality
quite
graphics,
important.
locked in at 30 frames per second. Action mode that focuses more on giving a stable frame rate at 60 frames per second. And then
Wow, didn't he
movie
say?
mode is variable
He sounded so down on that one, didn't he? Stable frame
has
rate.
4 different ones, 2 of them which only work with a 4K display. There's movie mode, which offers a stable 1920 by 1080 resolution with high quality anti-aliasing at 30 frames per second. Action mode that offers 1920.
This music sounds like Fortune's shopping in like a Turkish bazaar.
And then there are the 2 modes that work with a 4K display. Movie mode, which offers a 3840 by 2160 resolution at
Damn.
30 frames per second.
They're really
And
going
action
into
mode that
it.
gives you 1920 by 1080 resolution.
Digital
locked
Foundry,
at
watch
60
your
frames per
anus.
second. Rise of the Tomb Raider had different modes like this, and there was a noticeable difference. And being able to play that game locked in at 60 frames per second was awesome. Up next,
You can play that in 60 frames? Oh,
according
I
to
wish.
a head developer of Nioh, it'll take around 70 hours to complete this game. Now, in the past,
70 hours?
claimed to have a ton of gameplay time, but was truthfully about half or so about what was actually stated.
This is not a 70-hour game, guys. You can put that time in, but not just simply beating it.
Not bad at all. The game supposedly has 20 main missions and 100 side missions, and that's
There you go. 20 main missions. You can probably do them in about 6 hours if you know what you're doing.
blast through some of those missions in the beta and the alpha within 15 or 20 minutes, but it seems like that's a small group of people, and for most players, it is taking a lot longer than that. It's also unclear right now if there's any end game content or a new game plus mode of any kind. I mean,
Look at him
most
trying to hit
Dark
it through the
Souls
door. I
players
love
will
it.
say that Dark Souls doesn't actually
See
start
though,
the
see what I
game
mean? Low
first
stance.
time and start new game plus, and seeing that
No
Nioh
Kai
is
pulls.
very similar
You're
to the
seeing a lot of
game.
similar traits of players not quite understanding the game.
Right there doubles your playtime. But even without any of that,
He's
it
also got
seems like there's
unused
still a good
scrolls.
amount of game
I
here.
wonder if he didn't want them.
And up next, at number 8, we have the difficulty. This game isn't gonna be for anyone who's easily annoyed or discouraged from games. It's
Wow, I've never seen this area before. This
I'm
looks
gonna
nice.
Make that comparison a lot in this video because Dark Souls is the opposite.
Oh, it's those douchey doors.
Techno has even come out and admitted to that. One of the developers stated, and I quote, "We consciously avoided making
Of course there would be
So
spiders.
they're out to make a hard game. They want this game to be challenging. And it's going to work just like Dark Souls does.
Oh damn, is that a Queen Spider? It is Queen Spider.
Attacks and learn the enemy's attacks and movements, and you really just have to time everything super perfectly. And
Wow, that looks massive. That looks like something out of Dead
There also aren't
Space.
any other difficulties, so everyone will be playing the same
Standardized
exact
difficulty.
game.
Well, technically, Twilight missions
Be playing on
are an
the same difficulty.
extension of the
Hopefully
difficulty,
not too hard
so...
time with a game like this, because if you do, there's no way to drop the difficulty, and at that point, you really just have to power through and hope that you make it. So if you're
That's not
a fan
true
of
though,
Dark
dude.
Souls games or Bloodborne
Because you can
games,
grind,
might
you
not
can do
be the
co-op,
best game for you to
you
check out,
can
'cause you're
level
already
up. There's a
going into
lot of
game
options.
time.
Better gear, better items, better weapons, kill some revenants.
Japanese folklore. Nioh makes use of a ton of Japanese folklore in this game. For example, most of the enemies.
you noticed how a lot of people are
in the game
touching
actually
on
based
this?
off yokai, and yokai are demon or ghost or just supernatural monsters that pop up in different Japanese folklore. For example, one of the enemies in the game is based off the idea that all inanimate objects have souls, and when those objects are neglected or go unused, they can become an angry ghost.
Is that
And
that
the
weird
idea
turtle
behind this is
thing?
to make sure that you treat all of your things well and with respect, and you're just grateful for what you have. And this is really cool. I love stuff like this. Part of what made God of War so cool was the mythology behind it. Seeing these different gods and monsters that I've always read about and had a prior knowledge of pop up in the game. And while my knowledge of Japanese folklore isn't too good, I do know a little bit, and it'll be really cool if I can pick out things in Nioh. And up next, number 6,
Yeah, I don't think that applies to many
once
people
again,
unless
I'm
you
gonna
are
reference
interested in
Dark
their
Souls.
in their
Dark Souls has
mythology.
mimic chess. Other games do too, but Nioh also has them. But they're pretty different than the ones in Dark Souls. In Dark Souls, they're just bad chests, like they're evil chests with teeth, and they grow legs and arms, and they try to eat you if you open them. In Nioh, they don't necessarily do that. If you do go to open one, though, without knowing it's a mimic chest, you will get hurt. But if you're able to tell that it's a mimic chest and you whistle at it or wave at it using the gestures, it'll actually open up and you won't get hurt. Now, this will end.
Interesting. I didn't know that, so that's a good
It'll
tip.
either end with him dancing away, or
I didn't know you
continuing
could taunt to
so what
open the
happens is
chests.
He'll pop out, he'll do a gesture, and then you'll only have a few seconds to mimic the gesture that he does. And if you take too long to mimic him, he'll get mad and he'll attack you, and then you end up fighting, obviously. So if you
Look at the
respond
sword
to
he's
gesture
using.
fast
Oh, is that a
enough,
spear
he'll
on his
dance,
back?
and then he'll
It looks like a twin blade.
And you get a new gesture out of it. But if you end up fighting and you win, you get the loot, but you don't get the gesture. So just like in Dark Souls,
Interesting. So he gives you gestures. Didn't know that. That's a good tip.
You have to make sure you don't open a mimic chest on accident. You have to make sure that you know what it is. So just be cautious of what chests you're opening. Just keep your eyes peeled and pay a little bit of attention, and you should be fine. And up next, number 5, we have the loot system. Nioh has a really cool loot system. This isn't something that's like brand new for this game. Other games have had this, but it's worth mentioning because for a game like this is the right way to handle loot. Just like other games, there are semi-random drops, and seeing that you're always working to get stronger and better gear, you could be swapping gear in and out quite a bit. But here, it's different. It's not like Destiny where you're constantly changing out your gear as you drop it. One thing Nioh does, which is awesome, is it makes it possible to use inferior and older items without being at that much of a disadvantage. The more you use a weapon, the stronger that weapon actually becomes, and you can also take superior weapons and reforge them into your older weapon to bring the stats up. You can also do the same.
You see, I feel like all of this is spot on and deserves its place on a list like this.
Old weapon for the entire game. So yeah, Nioh really does seem to have an awesome take on
but I still think the loot was better on the first one because there was so much of it. Every enemy spewed 50 items. It was glorious.
There are numerous guardian spirits that you can choose from.
Spirits?
And what it is it gives your character passive bonuses, and it also gives you weapon bonuses when you augment it with your weapon. Like, it actually gives you a whole new moveset. It gets rid of the high, mid, and low movesets.
Yeah, it also makes you invincible, doesn't it?
It'll also add elemental damage and increase your damage for as long as you have it activated. Now, as you play the game, you'll gain...
Doesn't it make you invincible? Isn't that the most important part?
It's filled. That's when you can activate the weapon augmentation, and that's what gives you all the stat bonus.
I can't say shit, I never use those moves. Whoa! Good God! That was a lot of damage.
To get it all back. If you do happen to die before you get there, you lose all...
God, how shit did Dark Souls 2 just look then? It looked ugly as hell.
It really gives you that risk-reward aspect of the game that Dark Souls has, and that's one of the things that makes that game so great and so challenging. So like I said before, you really have to watch your back this entire time you're playing the game, just to make sure you don't waste all of your time and waste all that...
I'm assuming this is promotional material, because there's no hood.
The combat. So I'm gonna make the comparison again. The combat in Nioh is very similar to Dark Souls, but one big difference.
Never dodge away from it.
Backstab, which was like the thing to do in Dark Souls. So
you can backstab
from behind. It would trigger this quick animation of you stabbing the enemy in the back, and it would take away a good chunk of their health. Here in Nioh, they don't have that. Instead of getting a backstab, you get a damage multiplier for any attacks that are made from behind, which I don't know what.
That's not technically true. You can buy a scroll, and if you sneak up behind people, that reticle for the lock-on goes red, and you do an execution on them. It doesn't instantly kill, but it does exist. There are criticals on the back of enemies.
So it's super important to keep an eye on it.
Technically not a backstab, but still very backstab derived, so this tip, not so good.
Not only will you not be able to dodge attacks, if you have 0 stamina and you're hit by an enemy, or if that attack brings you to 0, you'll be stunned for a short amount of time, and that leaves you open to attacks. And this is a great way to die really quick if you aren't.
I still think that boss sucked.
Next, number 2, we have the ninjutsu and onmyo archetypes. There's a specialty stat that you'll acquire from playing.
Good old Hino Emma with her boobs out, however you call her name.
Classes. Not a class in the sense of like rogue, warrior, knight, not like that, but more of just giving you different skill sets that you can utilize. And
interesting. I wonder if the smoke bombs are good in this game, because they're really good in Ninja Gaiden.
Throwing stars, stuff like that. And then there's also the onmyo that makes use of spells like summoning spells and different kind of buffs for your character and weapons. But the knowing of a skill,
the buffs are good.
Mean that you can use it. You can only have a few skills at once, and they have to be readied at a shrine. So before you head out from a shrine, you really have to kind of decide what kind of play style you want to rock for the next few minutes, because you can only have certain skills equipped at any given time.
DPS, guys. Buff on weapons, damage.
The past few points have been very combat heavy because, as you can see, there is a lot to the combat in Nioh. The stances is the final piece of the puzzle. And
I wonder if they'll mention how overpowered the spears are, because spears are OP in this game.
You have 3 different stances, high, mid, and low. Each stance has different attack power, how much damage you can block, and how quickly you can dodge attacks. There's the high stance that dishes out more damage than the other 2 stances, but also has the slowest attacks, so it leaves you open to more attacks from enemies. And dodging in this stance also gives you the most recovery time, but blocking takes a hit here. And then there's the mid stance, which seems to be a good mix of all 3 stances. You'll do moderate damage.
Why does nobody mention that the triangle on mid stance is a great footsie tool? It's a forward thrusting poke that is great range, decent damage, and it's fast.
I've played both the beta and the alpha, and I must say that
it's a fantastic poke.
But then again, in any game I play, if there's choice between a character with heavier, slower attacks or weaker, faster attacks, I always go with the faster attacks. That's just how I like to play my games. And those
good old Kuze there with the hard knockdowns. So, I don't think that was too bad in the grand scheme of things. There was a lot of stuff there that I think is important to know. Perhaps not necessarily needed to know, but good to know. So, fundamentally, that was okay. Couple of tips there that maybe might not be spot on informationally, but I think it was okay. So this is GameSpot, guys.
Nioh is a brutal action RPG that demands you to understand its systems in order to overcome its challenges. But with so many mechanics at play, it can be overwhelming. That's why we've gathered 10 tips to help you become a master samurai.
10 tips. Look at using spear.
Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Wow, he has 45 sword scrolls?
In Nioh.
And he's using low stance?
Check out our dual swords gameplay video.
Seeing a trend here. Ooh, nice motion graphics. Good colours.
Make sure to keep a close eye on your ki gauge during battle.
So
Avoid
key,
recklessly
important.
swinging your weapon at opponents as it'll quickly drain your ki and put you in an immobile state.
This is a good tip.
Indicated by a red gauge, and while in this state, you're vulnerable to enemy attacks.
Uh-oh. Here it comes.
If this occurs, mash the dodge button to ensure you get out of the way of danger.
Oh wow, he's dressed like a ninja. Good tip.
Unlike the Souls games, you
The
can see
what?
how much ki an enemy
The
has
Souls
in their weapon.
games?
When an opponent
I've never played a
quickly
Souls
drains their
game.
ki, they'll either lack the energy to move or attack more erratically. Take advantage of this opportunity, as enemies are more susceptible to being staggered when you hurt
This is a
them
good
by mistake.
tip.
When an enemy is staggered,
This
you
is
have
the
a
build
better
that I'm
chance
going to
of
be
landing
making.
powerful grapple
I'm going to
or final
attack
blow
their
as
key.
well. It's
Stamina
also possible to
killer.
inflict direct damage to an opponent.
Yeah, he's even showing you where you... Yeah, this is good.
Acquired via the Learn Skills menu. Each weapon type has a particular technique that can inflict.
Oh wow, this looks like Ninja Gaiden 2.
The sword has a kick skill, which allows
Didn't
you
that
to
look
chain
like
kick with
Chapter
a
2
combo to
before
drain an opponent's
Genshin?
ki.
Whoa, look at that
Prioritize
dude.
unlocking these skills, as they can be vital in overcoming.
Oh, here come the ninjas. Oh, dude! That was like Gene's double step, like double kick launcher thing. Use Kai Pulse. There you go. This guy knows what he's doing.
Mechanics in Nioh is the ki pulse,
Oh,
a
ki
combat
pulse,
maneuver
whatever.
that allows you to restore some of the ki you've expended from attacking. To execute it, press R1 when light gathers around you after an attack. The better you time to.
That's good as well, because he's telling you there's a visual representation of the energy. You don't have to look at the bar, you can do it via the visual tell on your character. Dude, that is Chapter 2 Ninja Gaiden 2, that.
Perfect ki pulse can instantly remove a yokai realm from the field. To execute a perfect ki pulse, time your button press to when the light is just about to fade around you. You'll know when you've executed it when a swirling light forms as you raise your weapon.
He's also using
The
high
benefit of ki
stance.
pulse may not seem like much at first, but using it effectively can make all the difference in battle.
So far, this is the best video. By far. Best gameplay. Best tips.
It's important to take advantage of the various weapon stances, as each add useful attack variations to the weapons in your arsenal. There are 3 stances in total: high, mid, and low. High stance offers large attack damage and defense against enemies, but at heavy expense to your speed and ki. Mid stance offers medium attack speed and damage with some cost to your ki. And low stance allows you to attack quickly, albeit weakly, with little expense to your ki. Familiarize yourself with the feel of each stance and how they impact your weapons of choice. Some stances prove more useful than others during certain encounters. Utilizing a sword's high stance allows you to slash vertically.
I'm really
which is
hoping that
ideal
swapping
against
between the
enemies that carry
stances
low
mid-combo is a viable way of playing.
Weapon stances is key to surviving the most difficult battles.
Good tip. Agio and Ungio prestige points?
Nioh has an internal achievement
I don't know
system
what
called
this
Type,
is.
which allows you to earn additional stat bonuses. There are 2 achievement lists in total, Agyo and Ungyo. Each offers different challenges that demand you fulfill distinct conditions. For instance, the Swordsman Adept title requires you to defeat 100 human enemies with the sword.
Interesting.
Diversify the types of attacks
This is cool, dude.
weapon attacks like throwing bombs.
Not seen
the more
this.
likely you'll earn a new title. Upon earning a title, you will receive reputation points. Once you've accumulated enough, you'll gain a prestige point, which you
Ah.
can use to acquire a stat bonus in the prestige summary screen.
This is a good tip. Pay attention to armor
Each
parameters.
piece of armor you find has its own distinct special effects that grant you a variety of bonuses such as damage reduction, Amarita bonuses, and increased dash endurance.
Strategist of
However, in
Legend.
order to access them, you need to meet the armor's statistical parameters, which are listed at the bottom of its description in the equipment screen. For instance, the foot piece of the Warlord armor requires your stamina to be at 7 and your strength at 6. Be mindful of parameters when you equip armor.
I wonder if those will be more stringent than the beta, because in the beta I barely picked up anything I couldn't use at level 1. It was kind of crazy.
While it might not seem apparent at first, there's actually an equipment weight mechanic in the game. Each piece of armor has its own weight value, which, when equipped, contributes to your overall equipment weight percentage. Note how the font color changes from green to yellow at the top of the equipment screen when you exceed a certain weight. The higher the percentage is, the more ki your attacks and dodges will consume.
Yep, that's
your
good.
Movement speed is also affected.
Yeah, it impedes movement speed.
Understand
Good job.
your playstyle to manage your equipment weight accordingly. If you value mobility, staying at
Dude, it's the Resetsu room. Come on now, look at it. That is crazy.
That you never let your equipment weight exceed 100%, as your attacks and evasive maneuvers will consume nearly half your ki per action.
Search for Kodama. That's those little frog dudes, right?
When you explore an area, keep an eye out for Kodama, which are small green yokai that wear soup cups as hats. If you encounter a Kodama, approach it and hold circle to send it back to a shrine. For every 5 you collect, you...
This is what Cage has been making videos for the beta. He's gonna be all over this shit.
You collect affects the percentages of the Kodama blessings you receive at a shrine.
I always go for weapon drops. I'm greedy.
Collecting Kodama also gives you access to their blessings, which are...
This should have been part of the last one.
Each blessing is associated with a specific...
Maybe he was running out of ideas for tips.
5 of each to find in a region. The more you collect of a specific type, the higher the percentage its respective blessing will be. It's important to note that whenever you reach a new region, the Kodama blessing percentages reset. This is because each region has its own set of 25 Kodama to collect.
25? Damn. So this is a good beginner tip. I like this one.
There are 2 special
This is useful for
abilities
people
in the
who
game,
don't get the
Ninjutsu
menus.
and Onmyo Jutsu. Ninjutsu focuses on the use of throwable items and inflicting status ailments on enemies, while Onmyo Jutsu emphasizes imbuing your weapon with different elemental properties to take
I'm all
advantage
over
of
that
enemy
shit.
weaknesses.
All over
Both
it.
are incredibly useful.
Oh,
Each
whoa!
offers you an array of
Crazy
options, some
Phantom
with
Lady
offensive
thing.
weapons. Ninjutsu
And a
Onmyo
gank.
Jutsu abilities are unlocked by spending points via the Learn Skills menu in their respective...
I wonder if any of this is going to prove to be
Acquire a Ninjutsu
useful.
or Onmyo Jutsu skill, you can then assign one to an item shortcut by accessing...
Some of this armor looks
Ninjutsu.
great.
You can gain access to more advanced skills in an abilities tree by searching dungeons for hairs of the deceased. Acquiring these special items unlock training sessions that allow you to access advanced skills upon completion.
I don't know what I was witnessing
If there are
there.
any beginner's tips that I missed, shout it in the comments below. And
Well, there's a
for more
million,
video
but
coverage, including our
I think you did a good job.
Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
GG GameSpot, that was the best so far. If I were to recommend any video, I'd recommend this one. Purely because almost all of those tips, maybe except for the one where the Kodama was done twice it seemed, were something I would say, yeah, definitely learn it because you will profit. Great video. So the next one is a little bit different, folks. This one is how not to die in Nioh. 7 tips for beginners. You'll notice, if it's not 10, it's 7. 7 seems to be this more appealing number for these particular videos. But this is from Sony directly, so this, one would think, would hold the mark of quality and be the best piece that we've seen so far. You don't know though, you never know. You know, just like what Rich Piana says, you never know. This is 21 minutes long, so we're in for a bit of an endeavour here, so get your drink, get your snack, get comfortable, and let's get into this. So, Access PlayStation.
Hello, welcome back to PlayStation Access. My name's Nathan, I'm here with Dave.
Hello.
Dave,
Howdy Nathan, howdy Dave.
Yes.
I've been playing quite a lot of it, and this is our guide, How Not to Die.
Yeah, sounds good.
And it's well timed because there's actually, if you don't know, coming up this weekend, there is a final beta for Nioh. So if you haven't played it, you can try
he
it
says
all
beta.
this weekend for free. If
Really?
you're watching this, if you're watching this,
Are you a beta or a
January,
beta? Which one do you
wait till the
say?
game comes out.
Isn't it
But
weird how we
it's not
have
very long,
those
and the game's
pronunciations?
Brilliant. So I'm going to start my tips, okay, with this goes from some basic stuff to some more complicated stuff. Nothing very complicated because I simply don't understand it.
Yeah.
And it is a very
7 tips from somebody who doesn't understand it, great.
key.
Right. Is the key?
It is key. And as you know, like Nioh shares some similarities with the Soulsborne games, and there's the very important stamina bar there. So stamina is if you block, then your stamina bar gets depleted. And if
He
you
has 14 scrolls for his sword, it makes me sad. He has 2 there, so he's obviously used them.
sometimes trying to move out the way so you can free up.
Dude, use that spear, it's legit OP.
In a very similar way. There is a.
This is not bad play.
Need to know.
Okay.
Which is that
Tell me.
you can recover key.
Yeah, look at him, he's Sky pulsing. Which I apologise if I'm triggering everybody with how I say it, but fuck you.
After you've made an attack, so in a way it kind of encourages an offensive play.
Wow, that took a lot of stamina.
And if you do a
I never
single
block
move or
in this
combo,
game.
not several moves in a
Like,
row,
so
but
rarely
single
do I
move or
block.
combo, you will see that the key bar, it depletes into green.
Hey, this guy said he didn't know much. He's got some humility. He seems to be playing perfectly fine.
Once the blue is right at the top, or any time it's going up actually, you can press R1 and you'll recover the.
So the first tip is to Kai pulse, which is a good idea. Oh, here it is. There's the two-hitter. Get behind it. Here it comes. Look at it. He telegraphs it a mile away. Go to the other side. You're fine.
For the beta, and you will like Nioh.
That's the same moveset as the big axe.
This is probably it.
Yeah.
Key pulse and key managing your key is important. Regaining your key, using the key pulse, it's something you've got to keep reminding yourself to do. Even now, I forget to do it all the time. You've got to try and get into a rhythm of it.
Yeah.
And it's tough because different amounts of key from different kind of attacks, they take a little bit more or less time. They're differently timed. So it's really...
It's just muscle memory, bud.
Obviously you're not gonna
The
be
more you
doing
play, the
it
easier it'll get.
while you're fighting. I've tried that, doesn't work.
Yeah.
But there is a visual cue in around your character of William himself. The key kind of gathers in a blue sort of...
So he's telling you there's a visual representation. That's good.
They just flash at their biggest. You tap R1, bang, your key's back.
Yeah. It's literally the sort of, it can be the difference between life and death. I guess that a little bit of extra key that you recover is like, you know, enough for another blow, a finishing blow, or maybe a dodge, you know.
Absolutely, and because your opponents have key as well, most of your strategies are everybody from the smallest enemy, the bandit that you find, to the big kind of mini bosses or the bosses that we're going to talk about. They are on their own key management.
Ishida Mitsunari. Look at that dude.
And then you get a free hit at them.
Yeah.
Has he got a tail?
You get down to
I think he's got a tail.
and you try to either block or make an action, you kind of go into
That guy looks cool.
have a brief moment of not being able to do anything. And the same.
I think that the stamina bar in this game is the most interesting part about it.
Yes, definitely.
I really, really like that.
One of the ways you'll do that is the first time you and I played the game, we saw that there were different stances. This is my kind of second point.
Yeah.
These are very intimidating at the beginning. There's 4 of them in total. You shift between them by pressing R1 and then any of the face buttons on the.
Right.
Wow, that sword looks nice.
One of them is just sheathing your weapon though. So there's effectively 3 offensive ones, and they are as you go from X.
Yeah, but can't you do that quick draw in when you sheath your weapon? So it is important.
They are low, middle, and high stance.
Yeah.
And as you might expect, high stance is for power, so it's slower, stronger moves. They take up a lot of key.
So you're noticing a lot of elements repeating here, but it's good to know.
That the game describes as the easiest.
Yeah.
It's basically most balanced. So your attacks are doing a bit more, middle damage, but you are also quite maneuverable.
Yeah.
And the key is kind of not. You're not spending too much key with every attack. And then low is for dodging. If you want to be very nimble, if you're fighting perhaps quite another fast opponent.
Look at the difference in the dodges as well. Have you ever done that on Nioh where you get so used to having that dash that when you swap to a stance or a heavy armor set and you do the roll in like high stance and you don't know why you're rolling as opposed to that awesome dash or vice versa? That stuff confused me at
So
first.
the standard, much like the Dark Souls games, there is triangle and square are your heavy and medium attacks.
Yeah.
For whatever weapon you're using. And
Just like the Dark Souls games, square and triangle are your heavy and medium attacks?
2 or 3 button press combinations. That
This dude's going to be flasking and two-handing a lot if he thinks that's true.
depending on what stance you're in. You learn them pretty quickly. So, for example, I was using katana. I was fighting enemies that were... You saw them, actually. Those
I ain't seen anybody swap to a heavy weapon to riposte after a parry to maximise damage. What are you playing at, you scrubs?
fall down. If you have low stance,
Get MLG.
then even though it is not as powerful, the strike with the katana kind of is like lighting a match on the ground. It strikes right up. And I knew that was going to be doing them more damage than kind of coming down with a high blow and maybe missing with a diagonal strike.
Yeah.
So what you'll find is as you
Situational awareness, always good.
get to know the enemies that you're facing and the levels,
Here it comes.
you will change between stances, first of all between encounters, and then as you get better, you will, when you're, say, playing or fighting a boss, you will use low stance to
You see what I mean though, guys? You can get behind all of this.
upper stance.
And then he can't do a thing, especially if he continues the combo. You just hit him in the balls from behind, like tickle his fruit bowl.
Okay.
Which I have not even come close to mastering yet.
Right.
But later on, you also have the ability to. We talked about key pulse. There's a thing called a flux, which actually regains more of your key. Instead of just pressing R1 when you're reclaiming your key, you press R1 and one of the face buttons to change stance, and you get even more back.
Right. Okay.
I can't do it.
R1 and change stance? Isn't it just change stance that?
I think stance is probably, again, you know, if you're getting beaten up or you're struggling to do damage and you're wondering why, maybe you did more damage before and you're like, what's happened? It's probably a good idea to take.
Look at these blocks. He's getting so much less damage than he would if he just got around it. Look at it. He's doing it every time. Get around it, bud. You will be fine.
Yeah.
You got this.
I think that's what everyone's going to do to begin with, because it's like, you know, it is a balance.
You'll
like
be alright.
Here it comes.
And
Boom.
you'll be alright for a while, but if you want to
Boom. Boom. Like, every time. He doesn't do much, this enemy. He's just intimidating looking.
Intimidating as it seems, because the game.
Boom. Spin. See? None of that touches you when you're behind him.
Go through and you build your character, or you kind of, you know, you're customizing your character at the beginning.
But alas, you know. It's easy to say it when you're watching, isn't it? When you're playing, it's different, because there's adrenaline and everything, and you know, maybe he didn't fight that enemy as much as I did.
About stances, as with like the key pulse, you know, you don't always have to be looking at the HUD. You will come to learn how you hold your weapon depending on which stance you're in, and how you move and everything should give you a good.
The feedback of the in-game kind of visuals does, it really is trying to help you out as much as possible.
Yeah.
It's called good game design, boys.
It does this element of the.
See how the reticle went red just then? He could have done the critical.
I just want to mention,
But he chose to do the strike.
Game about the yokai and what on earth they are.
No.
And this is so there are bandits
Okay.
going throughout the game, and the yokai are kind of just like they're supernatural beings.
Right.
So every now and again you'll fight. I fought a Tengu, which was.
Look at that, my god. Dark Souls, it wants your tech back.
Tongue and a sort of,
Why do they do that? Let them hit through walls like that. Terrible.
Yokai, and one of the things that
Them spinning fireballs are wankers too. Back with Ishida.
while you're fighting them, is the
God, this dude looks cool.
smoke that they kind of dredge up.
He's not respecting his armor though, is he? He's just trying to hit through it. It's like watching Darkside Phil fight Mr. Shakedown and wonder why he's losing.
Your powers, your attack.
Wow, look at this dude!
They are overpowered, and because key pulse, the game's kind of explanation for when you time it right, so you recover a bit of your key with the key pulse. It's your purity of heart.
I wonder if you can get his sword.
Okay.
So nailing one of those while you're in kind of contact with the yokai realm disperses it, which is obviously
Gets rid of the negative
if
energy,
say you have a go at the beta this weekend.
So this is a good tip. Perfect Kai pulses get rid of those pools of negative energy that affect your stamina. Or your ki, as everybody calls it.
What else do we have going on?
I'm going to call it stamina.
Spirit. This is important. This is also, I said you select your weapons at the beginning. Your
falling.
They come with
Hey, a plunge attack.
+1
Good lad.
Different stats. Guardian Spirit is also something you select at the beginning, and you have 3 different options.
He's gone with Mozilla
So
Firefox.
if you're looking at the gameplay on the screen now, the top left-hand corner, there's a little symbol which gradually fills up, and it's got an animal on it.
Yep.
One of the characteristics of the hero, William, is that he has a guardian spirit attached to him, and he takes an animal form. And which one you choose determines what your kind of extra power will be. So what happens is basically when that
Pretty decent
symbol
tip.
is filled up, you press circle and triangle, and you activate what's called the living weapon.
Right.
Please say it, dude.
It's like a power mode.
Yeah.
Please say it.
You can't take damage. You got your
Love it. See? Perfect. This video just earned massive props then. The first thing he says, you take no damage. That's the most important part of this power-up.
But at the same time, you're supercharged, so your attack's doing more damage, and you can't take any damage. And you can also do a special kind of move by pressing circle and triangle again, and that will, depending on what your animal is, that will do a different kind of attack.
Got you.
There you go. Great tip.
To you at the beginning of the game are Kato, which is the fox.
Yep.
That's kind of like the standard one. That
Look at all those.
using, and that is a buff to when you go into the living weapon. That's like a really big buff to your attack, and it gives you kind of quite aggressive passive buffs as well.
Jesus Christ, look how many people's there. That looks terrifying.
Isanade,
Right.
who is a shark.
Nice pronouncement.
Thanks, man. Otherwise, he could make him sound like.
Oh wow, it tells you there, doesn't it? Like
He's really cool. So his
phonetically or whatever.
that you can perceive enemies better. And I like that you pointed out that might be because sharks are really good at like smelling blood in the water.
Yeah. And is that that's even when living weapons?
They're also really good at sensing vibrations, aren't they?
Passive buff.
Look at the passive buffs for when you're choosing these. Yeah, because if you look at the minimap in the top right-hand corner of the gameplay we've got on screen now, you can just see where the enemies are.
Right.
And in this kind of game, I mean, that's a huge...
Wow.
You can also see where the shrines are. So
That's pretty cool.
Have you ever played Dark Souls?
A mini-map?
Where is please? Where is the bonfire? You can actually see it on the minimap this time.
That is a big deal.
And the
That's
last
pretty
one
strong. I didn't know that.
is by Washi, who's like a hawk. It's like
Right.
a wind elemental, and this one helps you with dodging.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
I'd say quickly about, Guardian
Pretty
Spirit.
cool tips. I did not know that much about that stuff because I never use it.
You die, you lose your humanity,
Yeah.
and then you can't be invaded. You can't do the online stuff. Here, what happens is the Amrita that you've been getting, it's like the souls you've been collecting.
Yeah.
You do go back to pick them up, just like in the Dark Souls games, but this time, so they're in your.
Could have just said bloodstain.
Your grave is being protected by your guardian spirit, and they literally patrol it around the outside.
That's cool.
And so, how that kind of ties in the mechanic, the way that works is that when you respawn at a shrine and you're going to pick up all your Amrita, and you might have loads.
That peacock
you
looks
don't get
awesome.
any of the buffs from your spirit.
Or whatever that is.
Because your spirit is elsewhere protecting your Amrita.
And
Who braided its hair?
it's reunited with you. And if you
How
don't
dare
have
this thing do
the
human
buff,
things?
The spirit jumps out of the shrine and just rejoins you.
Right,
So
got
you
ya.
get kind of one chance to get your stuff back. And the next one, Dave, one of my favourite things is Kodama blessings.
Yeah.
And this is the first time.
So he's talking about the
I
shrine
went to a
blessings.
shrine, and there was a little green guy on there with a big hat.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what he was for.
No.
And then, but you can find them around the level, and they are hidden in the kind of places you would expect if you know the kind of the sense of humour almost of the Souls games,
Yeah.
where things are tucked away around corners and down tunnels. You will find Kodama's you guide them back to the shrine.
I love that bit.
Sometimes they're next to the shrine.
Yeah.
And you kind of guide them back, and you can end up with like a collection of them all over, and they make like a little noise. They're like a little band. And if you attack if you just do attack moves near them, they hide under their bowl
That's one of my favourite things, I think.
Oh,
brilliant. And
I've never
they
attacked
cheer
a
me up
shrine.
every
I didn't know that.
Scary game.
Yeah.
It's quite
Interesting
interesting.
touch.
Every time I find one, it really cheers me up. And you can go into the shrine options. You can choose a Kodama blessing, and this is basically affects the drop rate very slightly
Yep.
of certain things.
Right.
So if you choose the healer blessing, then
Get that swordsman blessing, son. You know you want it.
yeah, those sorts of things. And basically, you can find often more than what.
I like the idea that you can augment the drops. I like that a lot.
And they stack. So if you find two of the same, then instead of 1% drop increase, it'll be 2%.
And their kind is sort of denoted by different hats, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's so good.
Exactly.
It's so good.
It's so fun. Finding them is really, really good. The next thing to talk about is gear, and this works
Mission level
using
120.
I think the
Jesus.
again, similar to
That
people
PvP meta.
Souls games,
Yeah.
and you will understand the kind of the character status and item screens. I think they've simplified it a little bit because as you collect gear, and most enemies drop gear, there's a lot of kind of armor and weapons that you'll find. There's just a big old arrow next to it.
Yeah.
And that will say this is better. or this is
Nobody's
better. And
told you
sometimes
like
I
quick
think
ways of
that's
selecting
your
equipment and
characteristics.
getting rid of it and whatnot, and selling it at the shop and what have you, and
How your character,
which I think is quite interesting. Nobody showed you the consumables that give you Amarita, which helps you level up.
Then take good care about this.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, when you're first
Only one of these videos has mentioned those stat increasing items,
that arrow
like
is
the
to-
hair locks.
to
And there's like one of those for almost everything, isn't there? That gives you scrolls and the like.
And the other thing about
Might be
you-
quite important,
there's so
but
much
nobody's
to it.
touched on that.
First time you played, I remember you saying, "Why have you got so much?" And
Yeah.
you know, and it's because
Nobody's talked about finding revenants to get better gear.
at the shrines. So
Kind of surprised with some of these tips, but then again, you don't know what context they had when they made them.
Kind of currency of the
Yeah.
game is Amrita,
Yeah.
which is kind of like a precious magical stone, and you can make offerings at shrines. So you can basically trade in trash gear that you're not
Oh, here we go.
for small amounts of Amrita, just helping you to level.
So it's worth picking up gear even if you're not intending to use
You can
it.
also select more than one to do this in
Lower level or
bulk,
whatever,
which would be
because
useful.
You can break it down at shrines for Amrita that you can use.
Not too sure if you can offer them all. You should be able to, though.
When you bust open an enemy and they die, where all their stuff just sort of explodes in slightly luminous gold and silver
Yeah.
items, and it just bloop, 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 bloop. I'm just gonna, yeah, that's all from me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And then my last point, I think for now is about skill points and character builds. And character builds.
This is good.
I haven't played it really enough to know what kind of character I'm going to have, but just to let you know that as you level, you will choose skill points to put in certain areas, and that works much like on the face of it. I'm not sure the specifics, but on the face of it, that will work in terms of creating and customizing your character, a lot like in Dark Souls. But then there's also skill points.
Yeah.
Or God Hand. Or Saints Row.
It's actually something which, after I've been playing the game for about 15 hours, I only just realised this was here.
Yeah.
And this is, so say you...
Wow.
It's got every different weapon type. That's swords, dual swords.
No wonder he had 42 scrolls.
Kusarigamas, which are like...
Kusarigama!
And there is separate skills that you can unlock in every one of those categories.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot. And these are, sometimes they're one-off moves, so it might be the ability to strike out of block, or it might be an ability to do the flux, the key pulse changing stance and getting extra key back that I mentioned earlier on.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to investigate those early on, find out what weapon you're definitely going to specialize in, probably, and then the skill trees are flipping big.
Yeah, they're really big.
And then kind of accumulate that gradually into your play style. And then on the end, as well as the kind of all the weapon-based skill points that you can get, there's also ninjutsu, which is, well, ninjutsu and magic, and I kind of think they go together. And I don't know, I assume they're competing builds of character. And they allow you to do things like carry more kind of consumable items.
Once again, more information that we kind of see repeating here, but useful to know if you've not noticed.
Is going to be helped by, you can like carry more elixirs if you like level up ninjutsu skill to a certain point. And the only thing to mention about that is that you should keep an eye on skill points. They accumulate next to your items on the bottom left hand corner, and I think we were trying to figure out how they...
I love how they manage buffs in here, because they refill at the shrine, so you can always have a buff when you die and what have you.
But a pro tip, apparently, is that you also get a skill point for every notch of familiarity that you have with a weapon. So it's worth...
leveling different weapons.
Just becoming slightly familiar with all the weapons at the beginning of the game is a good way.
There you go. That's a good tip.
Getting some early
leveling through similar weapons to give you extra points to get you better quicker. That's clever.
And I really like this in shooters as well. As you use a weapon, your affinity with it grows, and the damage you do gets better. And as you said, in Nioh, there are notches that you go up. Some weapons have more than others, and so every one of those that you complete, you get a skill point.
And you don't have to spend that skill point on that weapon, So if you want to play with dual swords, but you're getting the
all you ever need to do, dual swords, triangle ender.
You can spend that on your dual.
You beat the game.
They're not linked to the specific sort of...
Because that jumping slash was ridiculous in the beta.
Yeah, which is a good advice anyway.
Watch my Hino Emma video.
I've got to
it crushed her.
Say I really like the skill tree, and like as you said, you played it for quite a long time without realising it was there. I just like the idea that leveling in games, quite often games like the Soulsborne games, it's just numbers in the background, and you level up and you just some numbers change, and you're aware that you're more powerful and you can see it happening. But I so much prefer getting a new skill, like sort of and working to earn a new skill. Like I've got that move I want.
It's like buying a card in a board game, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny because I think that's definitely true of my experience with Dark Souls. Was even though I knew what character I wanted to kind of carve out of the stats, it happens. It's a really gradual process, and your character kind of evolves into something. But here is, like you say, you can kind of, it's like buying a shiny toy. It's like saving up, going to town and buying.
Somebody needs to play more Dark Souls.
Exactly, and it's a good incentive. It's a good incentive to have a look at that tree and think out what's going to help me play better, and and earn it, and maybe use different. How am I going to get some skill points? Of maybe through leveling or using different weapons or whatever. It's just a really good incentive to get you to play the game and help you understand it. So, I am all for that.
Exactly. So I mean, my experience with this game is that it's deep and it's really, really enjoyable, and it's not as intimidating as it first seems. It really isn't.
Yeah.
So I mean, take what we have told you. Go and play the beta this weekend, the final beta, on the 21st and the 22nd of January. The game is out on the 8th of February, so not long to wait after that. It's going to be one that I mean we currently have it on a. I'm waiting for the actual full game to come out. The version that we've got at the moment isn't one I'm going to be able to take home.
That was interesting. Using the triangle to repeated Kai pulls. Oh wow! Damn! Look at that gun! That was a ridiculous damage. Is this guy back?
I don't want to keep saying Soulsborne, but it has got that sort of...
It looks like you must fight him a few times. His sword looks elemental now, as opposed to what it was before. It's got wind on it.
And it's one of those games you're going to want to talk to about...
Interesting. He fires crazy rape tentacles at you.
It's just... Oh, it's exciting.
I hope you can parry this dude. So that wasn't bad. It's official Sony though, so you know they've got to have some measure of quality, one would think. I have no idea how they got that job, but they're pretty fucking lucky. And I'm really surprised, guys. I thought this was going to be me tearing a new asshole into a bunch of videos that are recommending new poor advice, like the Titanfall 2 advice videos were that I watched all the way back then. But it wasn't. They were surprisingly solid. Each of them had something that I think was valid. Some more so than others. I still think the GameSpot one is probably the best. He seems like he had the most experience with the game and became the better player, so that one will definitely help the new guys more than anything. But I think that was really, really encouraging, because you can look at these videos, you can call them clickbait, 7 of this, 10 of that, 3 of that, the numbered stuff, the top 10 stuff that everybody seems to love on YouTube, and you can immediately write it off as not being quality, because it's just, you know, homogeneous vomit that people gobble up and drink down. But these were okay, you know, I can't criticise them too much at all, which is awesome, as much as I wanted to be an asshole. But yeah, these Watchmen are doing their job just fine. So thank you for watching, and you take care now.